Well, hey everybody, it's Saturday, March 15th, and we are in John chapter 5. Hopefully you've read the text before you watch the video, just as a reminder, and it's always a good habit just to spend a second just to pray and say, Lord, would you show me something in the text? And it's interesting, today I read through the text. I was like, man, I don't know what to talk about. Kind of stepped away, did a couple things, and then came back to it. Said, all right, I'm going to read it again, and something really just kind of popped to me. And it's there at kind of the first part of this text today, where Jesus talks about John the Baptist being a eyewitness and someone who's testifying about Jesus as the promised Messiah, the Son of God. And I wanted to actually read just a portion of this today. Jesus says in verse 34, "Of course I have no need of human witnesses, but I say these things so you might be saved." So his communication is for the sake of salvation. John the Baptist was like a burning and shining lamp, and you were excited for a while about his message, but I have a greater witness than John, my teachings and my miracles. The Father gave me these works to accomplish, and they prove that he sent me. You know, it's interesting that there was a lot of assumptions being made and questions being asked about Jesus as the Messiah, and largely because of the power at work within him. And that became an evidence that was undeniable. You know, if Jesus showed up and just said, "This is who I am," then the Pharisees and Sadducees, the religious leaders, would have challenged and said, "Well, prove it to us." But when he shows up and he's healing people and he's serving them, and he's doing it in ways like even we talked about earlier in this chapter, where people are kind of, you know, he does it and then he's not even sticking around to get all the attention for it, but he does it and moves on. And people aren't even quite sure who did it. Like that's hard to wrestle with. Like, it doesn't seem like he's in this for vanity. He's not in this for attention. He's changing people's lives that have been stuck with illnesses, diseases for decades. And then he moves on. And the one kind of piece that he challenges them with is in regards to sin, that he deals with physical brokenness, but then he challenges them to step out of spiritual brokenness and to be restored in a relationship with God. So the key of this that Jesus says is that there's a greater witness even than John's opinion, and that is, look at what I can do. But once again, throughout this series, John is writing this not so that we are fascinated by what Jesus does, because he had seen that with Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and people being familiar with that. They're fascinated with what Jesus did. And then in verse 36, "I have a greater witness than John, my teachings and my miracles. The Father gave me these to prove he sent me," to prove I am who I say I am. So continue to walk with Jesus, who he is, and have an awesome weekend. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in church, and then we'll jump back in on Monday.